was busy. That's the position I have long legs, so that's the position I'm always hitting up as high as they'll go.
Probably this was your seat at some point.
Nice.
Uh-oh.
Paper cut. Yep.
Hate that.
Crispin sent us sharp envelopes.
Uh-huh. There's no white powder in the...
Is this our payola?
This seems to be the latest thing, is these folding cards. I know our firm sent out these folding cards too, and it was a major pain to sign them. You know, you have to go through and sign a whole bunch of cards.
Who was responsible for the refolding?
We all had to do it ourselves.
Is it like an anti-environmental movement?
Right.
We're going to make you a
More paper. Lots more paper. Yeah. Be careful as you open it.
Right. I guess they small things.
Yeah.
I have to believe, though, that kind of interchange is like just normal, that's part of the game. You know, they do, that's just how
When
they
you're
play.
dealing with something that big, I mean, you know, construction has a reputation of, you know, you fight over every penny.
Right.
Didn't I tell you that maybe where there's maybe where I said at one time I wanted to do a cross stitch similar paint an open painting and little artists that said every
Maybe true. It's not necessary.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
you get big print.
Because I'm old.
Is yours too tiny? Too tiny?
Yeah, he gets bigger print than I do. All right, I think we're mostly here. DDA meeting is in session. Will you please call the roll?
Welcome everybody to the Wednesday, January 5th, 2011 Ann Arbor DDA meeting. Roll call. Gary Bora.
Here.
Nickel Clark. Here. Russ Collins. Todd Gunzel.
Here.
Lee Gunn. Here. Roger Hewitt.
Here.
John Echa. Joe Lowenstein.
Here.
John Mowat.
Here.
Keith Orr. Cindy Smith.
Here.
John Swift.
Here.
We have a forum.
Thank you, Susan. We first have our audience participation, maximum of 4 people, but I do not see anyone here. No one has signed up. Is there anyone here who would like to participate? Don't see anyone, so we'll move along. Reports from our city boards and commissions. We usually have Ray Detter here. He is not here. All right. Well, since it's Ray, we will allow him to report in if and when he gets here. And next we have something that is both sad and happy, which I will, if Lee Gunn is prepared, I know you're just getting set up there. I know that you have a resolution, very good, to present.
Joe and Mike, please come forward. Now, I know you did want us to do this, Joan. We're going to do it anyway. Whereas Joan Like has been a committed and hardworking member of the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority staff for nearly 2 decades. First working in a part-time capacity for the first DDA director, then in a full-time capacity for the current DDA director, whereas Joan Like was the only staff member during the year between the first and current DDA directors, and did an outstanding job to support the board during a challenging period. Whereas over all these years, Joan Like has served nearly 4 dozen DDA board members spanning an incredible history of the organization. Whereas Joan Like epitomizes the ideals of customer service, as untold countless community members received extraordinary, above and beyond assistance from Joan for problems large and small. And whereas Joan's warm and intelligent voice answering the DDA's phone created an indelible first and lasting impression of the DDA for so many people, whereas Joan Like's continuous quest to do her absolute best has been a vital factor in the achievements of the DDA and has done an incalculable amount to cast a positive image of the DDA to downtown stakeholders and to the community at large. Resolved, the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority extends its great thanks to Joan Like for her abundant contributions to the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority and indeed to the community as a whole. Be it further resolved that the Ann Arbor Downtown Development Authority extends its best wishes to Joan for a happy and fulfilling retirement. I will miss you so much.
I was afraid this was going to happen. So, first of all, I'd like to thank the producers and the directors and everything else. Oh, that's the other award. I want to say to each and all of you, it has been a privilege and an honor to work with you. I've learned so much by watching you in action. I've learned the true meaning of dedication, perseverance, and teamwork. Thank you all for being a living example of how government can work for the good of the community. You aren't perfect, but at least you're doing something. You are trying to do the right thing, and that is all it takes. I've learned a few things since I've worked for the DDA and watching you. Nothing is simple. Parking isn't free. If a plan is a good one, it will eventually resurface, sometimes 3 or 4 times, like the link, it keeps coming back. Criticism is in ample supply, and compliments are too few and far between for what you deserve to hear. Rome wasn't built in a day, neither were any of the projects that you've undertaken. The wayfinding, I was shocked that it took 5 years of planning for us to really do it. Once it's here and on the road, it's wonderful. So it's okay to pilot an idea, and it's okay to pilot an idea and call it back when it doesn't work out. At least you're trying, you're moving ahead. And from the one board member that's not here to Russ, I learned that retreats are just extended board meetings. And the other thing I learned from you that I'll take with me, even when you disagree with people, you can still accomplish many things. Thank you again for the opportunity to serve with you. I look forward to reading about your many accomplishments in the future and seeing and experiencing firsthand the difference that you're going to continue to make in the downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
So as I said, it's sad and happy. We're very sad to say goodbye to Joan. We know that she is very, very happy, and we are very happy for her as well. And I also would like us to just turn and formally introduce Julie Uden, who is our new office manager. And Julie has been working with Joan for the last month and has learned very quickly about how things work around here and all about all of our quirky personalities, and is already doing a wonderful job. So we are very sad to say goodbye to Joan. We're very happy for her, but we are very happy also to have Julie with us now, and so it's all going to work out okay. Ray, we skipped over you, but we did not skip you. So if you would like to give your report right now.
I would. You're not counting yet, are you?
No, I'm not counting yet.
You're not counting yet.
No.
I just want to say that a number of things last night. It was an interesting first of the year meeting, and that we were lucky to have Councilmember Saber Greer present at our meeting and to give us a report on the progress of the 5 meetings of the Outreach and Panhandling Task Force appointed by the Mayor and City Council. Of particular interest in the last month's meeting was the fact that we had 3 downtown panhandlers who were present. We interviewed for well over an hour with regard to the nature of what they saw within the community. And that confirmed our awareness that the problem is not just homelessness, and the solutions must be related to dealing with the problems of substance abuse and mental illness, as well as consideration of improving loitering and panhandling ordinances. And we also had an excellent report last night from Susan Polley on the DDA, downtown RFP development strategies, transportation, and parking issues. And our group has always supported area planning, whether it's outside the downtown or inside the downtown. And we strongly support the DDA shaping an overarching strategy to develop city-owned downtown properties, to facilitate the process of writing, distributing effective RFPs and RFQs to solicit developer proposals. Of course, with broad public input and also with City Council approval. And related to that DDA goal, I want to recommend that everyone make an effort to attend the Citizens Participation Meeting on the Ann Arbor Hotel, now being proposed at the corner of South Division and East Washington. The meeting will be tonight on the 3rd floor meeting room of the Ann Arbor District Library from 7 o'clock to 8:30 p.m. What are the issues and concerns, supportive and negative regarding this project? That's what will be discussed, and everyone will have an opportunity to provide their input. Neighborhood critique of the proposal is absolutely essential. The hotel claims to be a by-right project conforming to the A2D2 zoning, which the city has already approved. But there are questions of how it meets what we consider to be acceptable design guidelines, which will be appearing before council on Monday as a part of a work session of City Council. And they've been working on that for a year, weekly, ever since in the end of February of last year. The group that has been meeting weekly and has really perfected something which is a great improvement over what was submitted over a year ago. Perhaps we will need to improve the guidelines even further after looking at the hotel and seeing what it is that we're getting within the nature of the zoning which we've accepted. But we believe this will be a real test of the design guidelines and a real test of the zoning that we've approved for the downtown, because this is located in a D1 area. And like it or not, that proposed hotel relates to what we can accept. Going back to what Susan was talking about last night, the DDA is doing what we can accept on the library lot, and perhaps also the Klein's lot. The RFP for the library lot went out at a time of economic crisis. I mean, the market was collapsing with regard to housing, and the responses that we got were almost totally without housing. What would happen if we put out another RFP today? And of course, we knew at that particular time we did not have a hotel being proposed or being built on the corner of Washington and Division Street. Does that make a difference? Well, some of us think that it does. It has to be taken into consideration with regard to what it is that we do on the library lot. Perhaps it supports it. Perhaps it questions it somewhat in terms of the nature of its guidance, and that would be a DDA issue and consideration, I think, in the future. And the CAC was able to give full support, as you know, to the Zaragon 2 project in the downtown. That met the A2D2 design guidelines, and we came out and supported that project. But they also, at a time at which it was just emerging, dealt with the design guidelines. And they conformed, with one exception, to those design guidelines, and that may be something which also will be improved. And that design task force, of course, as I said before, has been meeting for a year, and they've done an excellent job, and we'll all be able to see it on Monday when it's presented to City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the status of task force efforts with DDA membership. First, the library lot RFP advisory committee.
The committee has not met since our last board meeting, and I have nothing to report.
Then the committee to discuss a mutually beneficial agreement.
Okay. We have met on two major items. We talked extensively about the proposed parking, downtown commercial parking district as part of the proposed new parking contract. Got into some maps and a lot of discussion. We will can discuss that probably a little further at the retreat, since that's what we're primarily going to be dealing with at the retreat. The other is a resolution that was introduced at City Council in the middle of December. The resolution authorizing the DDA to develop a plan to redevelop downtown city-owned parcels. This is a City Council resolution that was introduced by Christopher Taylor, who's on the Mutually Beneficial Committee, with the idea of showing the city's good faith in negotiations, that one part of the negotiations are going to be moving forward while we are still discussing the negotiations on the parking contract. So the resolution is on page 3, I believe, of your packet. I would like to move that resolution.
Second.
Wait, this is not the city council resolution, this is our resolution
Yes, I heard
supporting
you
their
say
resolution.
yes. This is our resolution supporting their resolution. Thank you for
Right.
correcting me on that.
It's now open for discussion.
Yes, just to essentially, the City Council, I think, would like to know that the DDA is indeed interested in taking on this task before they go ahead and act on the resolution in the middle of January. So this is essentially our statement that the DDA board would embrace the duties and responsibilities that the City Council resolution would authorize the DDA to undertake. So we need a few moments to read it.
Does anyone have any questions?
So the timing of this is for them to get our sign off on what Chris proposed.
It's not really a sign-off, just to inform City Council that indeed this is something the DDA is interested in doing.
Relative to the specific points.
Relative to the City Council resolution, yes.
Okay, so this is not necessarily our input or feedback, or is this?
No,
Okay.
it is not our input or feedback. It is not a negotiation of what's in that resolution or a negotiation of any contract that might develop from that resolution.
Does this supersede what we expect to be a contract?
Supersede? No.
Because we were talking about two mutually exclusive contracts or agreements, as it were. This is not the agreement to develop the lots, is it?
No.
Okay.
This is simply a statement by the DDA that we would embrace this responsibility.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Are we going through this, or?
Well, just if somebody has questions.
Oh, well, the only two things I would say is one, the zoning issue, which we've been talking about for a couple of months. It specifically references in here applicable zoning. I think it's important that we point out in our resolution, and this is, I could call this a friendly amendment, that we would like understanding what that applicable zoning would be. I think is very critical. Ray just brought up there's pending design guidelines. Would those also with A2D2 come into play? And then as long as it's understood that this is necessarily where the city thinks that they would like us to move, and there's still a window, because there's a lot of things that are pulled out here, and if we're going to be asked to do these, I think it's worth us spending quite a bit more time, or at least some committee time, going through, all right, well, what do all these phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 mean? Are these feasible? Is this the best approach that our consultants may say? I don't want us to pigeonhole us in a thing where the city said, well, we told you to do this. Because I don't know if this is binding to us relative to their asking us to do these things, because that seems how it's written.
Gary?
Yeah, being one of the more critical members of the Mutually Beneficial Committee, I can't support this assuming that this really doesn't nail down that much. In other words, I imagine that as I sit here and as City Council sits there, we may have different ideas about what I would want in terms of a commitment. and an ability to just go ahead and redevelop things without their ability to shoot us down and so on. Recognizing that that has yet to be ironed out, I can support this, but only under the assumption that that fine print has yet to be determined, and this binds us in no way to the specifics. That's my understanding, and I'll support it under that understanding.
Lee?
When I read this, I mean, it's just sort of a general agreement. Let's go forward. That's how I interpret this resolution, so I'm certainly going to support it.
John?
I have two things. One is I assume, since it says draft for discussion, that it's fluid and it's just a guideline. And I take it it's just meaning philosophically, is this something, we as a board want to take on? And so I would suggest that I think it needs to be even step back from a little bit from this, philosophically, how is this thing being approached and what needs to be done? And that may involve discussions with council members and city staff and lots of folks. So I completely agree with what you described.
So are you proposing a delay or a friendly amendment?
Well, I guess what I'd ask is have we determined yet which committee? I would think there'll be a time when the mutually beneficial committee is going away and that some of this has to be referred to a committee to start working through the details of it. So maybe my question would be, do folks foresee what that next step might be?
It seems as though all the other committee
I know. So
economic development and everything.
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting question, but I think that it sounds like many of us think that this needs to be taken to a committee level and a lot of things hammered through.
I think what I see this as a framework. It was drafted in pretty specific, a little more specifically than many resolutions might be, just because it's something new and it gives a framework to the council to understand what is being undertaken. I think hopefully the council will pass it. Once it's passed by council, then it comes back to us to say, okay, how are we going to turn this into something more than just a framework? And at that point, I think we can figure out which committee it may go to.
Could I ask a follow-up question then? It feels as though it's a bit of a chicken-egg situation. Would it benefit council, for instance, to get some initial feedback to this before they next act on it? Or I think it's the point you're making is that if this is passed, if the next step in this process is for city council to pass this, how specific is this, and how is it viewed? Is it viewed as a working draft?
I think it is really meant as just to show a framework. And that's really all I can say. It's clearly not a contract because it's a resolution. So it may be that there is some sort of contract or agreement once the city okays this authorization that emerges from this that then will be drafted later on.
Can I suggest a friendly amendment? Because I understand the intent, and I also like the idea of good faith that things are happening. A lot of us, care much more about this than we might necessarily care about where the parking ends up. Just on the last whereas, the DDA looks forward to approval of this resolution by City Council as it shows forward movement and discussion, and we look forward to adjusting the framework further or answering questions that have not yet been explored. And I don't know if that makes this toothless. I don't know if this is toothless to begin with, and if it is, why are we doing it?
The intent of our resolution, is merely to communicate officially to council that the concept of the DDA handling the development process of the city-owned parking lots in the DDA area is something that the DDA would embrace doing. It is not.
That's different than referencing the three-phase bullet-pointed, we asked Spark to do this, we asked Spark to do that kind of thing.
But that's part of the city council resolution.
Well,
what we're saying is that we support the concept.
Well, our resolution says we look forward to them passing that resolution.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that, in my mind, matches up in terms of we're supporting their concept, but we're actually saying we support their resolution, and their resolution is actually quite specific, in my mind. And that's my feeling as it stands right now, and I wouldn't be in favor without some sort of understanding or friendly amendment to that.
Okay. I think the friendly, if we could be a little more precise and a little more brief on the amendment.
Sure. Let's see.
This is after the second or the first whereas.
It is.
Last whereas.
The DDA looks forward to approval of this resolution by
Okay.
council. The DDA looks for.
I looks forward to working out the details or something
Yes.
to that effect.
Yeah, something to that
Is that right,
effect.
Roger?
Looks forward
Yeah.
to the approval of this resolution by city council and looks forward to working out the details. That's fine.
Yes.
Great. Okay.
Of the
That's-
development plan?
The details of the development plan.
Yep.
And that's part of the last whereas? Yeah, yes, I consider that a friendly amendment.
And Sandy, yeah, wait, have you gotten any traction on the zoning question?
If it's friendly, you know.
It is
Oh,
correct. It's an
oh,
overlay
yeah,
zone.
say friendly, you know.
Okay, so that may be brought up in discussion of this resolution.
It is an overlay zone.
Okay, because the last portion of your resolution says, and this is, I guess, relating to the reimbursement, is that if the city council declines to approve parcel site plan for any other reason other than the site plan not complying with applicable zoning regulations, then the city of Ann Arbor shall reimburse it. As long as everyone understands that that's not a PUD formed thing, and it would revert to A2D2 zoning and whatever guidelines you pass, other than what the current process would be prior to A2D2 would be, it has to be PUD kind of situation. Or a,
It won't preclude PUDs.
no, it wouldn't preclude PUD,
But
but the idea would be that if we develop them to A2D2 and city council denies them, if they that this would be, you understand what my concern is?
Yes.
Okay.
yes, but it is not that the only way that these can be developed would be PUDs. I think the whole purpose of the A2D2 is to define development terms that one would be successfully developed, that there's enough room for a developer to bring in and do something, and two, the public understands what that envelope is ahead of time, right? So therefore, eliminating the tension of the PUDs.
And that's what the hope would be, is if we put this out and say, okay, here's A2D2, here's the guidelines, here's how the RFP fits in that. If your proposal meets that, you're not going to be dragged along as you might otherwise be for a lengthy site-by-site, parcel-by-parcel, non-zoning specific
Right.
process.
I believe that that is the intent.
Okay.
That's the intent of it. Let me just clean up something. The seconder on that motion, did that turn out to be? John Moet. So if the amendment, is that friendly to you? Okay. So, are there any further questions or discussion before we vote on this resolution as amended? John?
I just want to thank the folks who all worked on this, because I think it's a great start. I think it's something that will benefit the whole community, and obviously there was a lot of thought and detail put into this, which I want to compliment, even though obviously there are concerns when it gets to be that detail. We've got to work it through, but I think it's a great first step.
Good, thank you. John?
I would agree with what John said, but also I would note that don't be surprised if it takes council more than a couple of meetings to work through this. That could easily be postponed. A lot of things get postponed and looked at because there's a ton of stuff on the table right now.
And certainly, if there's any questions, I would assume we're open to clarifying these points. I'd look forward to having a couple of meetings to flesh this out before it's voted on.
Okay, anything else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The resolution passes. Thank you.
Just as a follow-up piece, I would encourage any concerned members of this body to participate in the dialogue for that. I think that it's useful to meet with council members to talk about what's out here and what the concerns are and going forward.
Would this
what the
be
desires are, so.
would this be in a formal another working session, perhaps?
It's possible to do that. We could have we could do it at partnerships and invite people from both and make sure that we have a good dialogue there.
That'd be great.
And this will be on the council agenda in the next meeting?
I think it's the second meeting.
Yeah, it's on a Tuesday because of Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah. Okay.
18th.
Right. So assuming that it will go and won't be postponed, of course, any of us are always welcome to attend the city council meeting as well. Next, we have approval of the minutes.
Move approval of the minutes
Second?
for December 1st.
Okay, any questions or corrections, questions about or corrections to the minutes? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, our subcommittee reports. First, our Bricks and Money Committee. Who's going to do that one? Roger?
I'll go first this time?
All right.
Okay, the money part on this report will be very brief. On page 13, we'll review the parking things. We will spend more time during the retreat or extended board meeting, whichever you choose to name it, to look at the 10-year plan. As you can see, the numbers comparing November to November, our revenues are up about 7%. Again, there was been a rate increase, so we would expect them to be up somewhat. Hourly patrons are virtually the same. So again, the parking system in these economic times that are not the greatest continues to, at the very least, maintain steady usage, and there's no indication of any significant fall off in usage at all. And again, our revenues do, because of rate increases, continue to improve. Again, on the very right-hand side, you can see the comments on why specific structures or lots have gone up or down. And Joe and I will entertain any questions.
Any questions for Roger, just on this small part? All right, John.
You're done?
I'm done.
Wow. All right.
I believe that is a record.
On South Fifth Avenue underground parking structure, the second deck pour at level P2 on the east leg was done a couple of weeks ago. 2 mass pours were done in December. One pour was approximately 1,000 cubic yards and another approximately 2,000 cubic yards. Work to install and form seal reinforcement continues. Mass concrete footing pours continue. 7 mass pours are scheduled for January and February. The first one will occur this Saturday at the northeast corner, right beneath, next to the Denali building. And that will be approximately 2,200 cubic yards. The next one is scheduled for January 14th and the next January 22nd, and they are both about another 1,800 cubic yards. Miscellaneous columns and walls are being poured almost daily. Mass excavation is 99% completed. It's been halted just long enough to catch up on the tieback installations. And dewatering continues along phase 2. And in terms of 5th and Division, work has been shut down for the winter, and that's all I have. Any questions?
Good news.
Good news.
Okay.
Next committee meeting is Wednesday, January 26th at 11 a.m.
All right, thanks very much. Sounds good. Next, we have our newest committee, our Economic Development and Communication Committee, which we haven't thought of a real catchy name for yet, but we probably will. There is in your packet some detailed information about that, the kind of minutes of that meeting, but I'll give you an overview. This was our first committee meeting, so what we did is we reviewed the economic development efforts that are already underway by other local, regional, and statewide agencies, and there's actually a lot, especially by the county, which many of us really didn't know about, and it's a good thing we have Bob Gunzel on the board now and on our committee to let us know about all of that. We all shared kind of our big picture vision for the committee, and there was general consensus that overall we'd like to act as the point people, the point agency for downtown, and excite the community around a comprehensive vision about the benefits of a vibrant downtown. And so more specifically, We want to focus on the image of downtown Ann Arbor, which might involve kind of defining or branding what the downtown is, and also improving our communications about the downtown and creating a detailed marketing plan. For business encouragement and development, this may involve gathering more information and building a toolkit to encourage businesses to locate downtown, and in addition, active recruitment of businesses for the downtown. So with these goals in mind, we created a number of action steps that involve working in partnership with other agencies, more research and information gathering to define our marketing goals, and then creating metrics to measure our success. So at the next meeting, what we're going to do is go through a similar visioning process about the communications aspect of the committee, take a look at what other agencies are doing and how we can define the DDA's role. And we're going to start meeting with representatives from other local economic development agencies. And we've really talked about bringing in other people to kind of be advisors to this committee. And we're going to do that, but first we have to really figure out what our goals are and what it is that we want. And then we can look and see what the expertise is that we're going to want to add to the committee.
I have one suggestion. You should include Convention and Visitors Bureau. They have a mountain of information and statistics that I think would be helpful, and I know they'd be more than delighted to share it.
Yes, I think we have gotten stuff from them, but they're certainly included as a development agency. Right. Okay, so our next meeting of that committee is going to be also January 26th at 9 a.m. right here. Partnerships Committee. Sandy, today you don't have to fight over it.
I don't. It's all mine.
Yeah.
We continue with the energy saving grant program for the time being. We have 32 applications for the third cycle of the first phase, and that is the request for audits. And it's 320,000 square feet of downtown building space. It's included in that. And those 32 applications should well fall within the $100,000 that's budgeted for that, for the energy audit phase. And since the beginning of the program, since 2008, 73 energy audits have been completed. 24 buildings and businesses have actually installed energy saving improvements, totaling $145,000 with a payback of approximately 2.6 years. And one thing I would like to point out is that we had a very dramatic example of what was going on in the Carytown area with the MAV building, who installed 11 600-foot geothermal wells right behind what used to be the DeLong's, and I can't think of what the business is there now. Right, and in that little parking lot there. So they've been drilling away, and it's a real mess now. But it's going to heat the whole building there, heat and cool the whole building. That was the spot for the former DDA office in there. So that's it's really a very dramatic and showy way that we were able to help with that. We certainly didn't pay for half of that at all, but they reached their cap very quickly. So that's pretty exciting. The other things we do is just updates and reports from the library lot RFP, which is not much happening. The Planning Commission and City Council. Next meeting, we will take on a look at the development plan as the proposal, see if there's any recommendations that we want to add to council, and that would be next Wednesday, which the date is the 12th at 9 a.m.
Thank you. Transportation Committee.
Thanks. We did not meet in December, so I want to give you a quick preview of what we'll be talking about next week, and also to remind people that we've got a new day and time, which includes lunch, so we'll added benefit. So the things that Amber's been working diligently on putting information together for us. What what things we'll be looking at are the transportation elements of the parking and transportation demand management plan. We'll start discussing the near-term recommendations from the plan and what we want to start implementing. We've also had some conversations about what things that are infrastructure projects affecting the downtown that we may want to advocate for that are going on right now, and to hear updates regarding Get Downtown, Go Passes, and changes to Night Ride, and maybe most importantly to welcome back Nancy Shore from her time away. So that'll be exciting. So our next meeting, next Wednesday, January 12th at 11 a.m. right after partnerships.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other DDA business matters? I just want to mention that what we're going to do, so they did say at the beginning, what we're going to do is when we finish our regular business meeting, we're going to break for about 5 minutes, maybe 4, and then get back together and enter into our retreat. So that's what the format is going to be. Other matters before we go into our retreat? Yes, I was going to get to that. Is there any other audience participation? We have this part of our meeting for any audience participation at 4 minutes each. I don't see anyone, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So, second.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Did I break your record?
Broke the record.
I broke your record, okay.
You can sign all the biggest checks.
Yeah, that's right.
Go over it all because I didn't go into an extended
Yeah, that's right.
operations.
This is